Welcome to Carter's Retro Reviews. Today we're going to be reviewing World Cup Golf Professional Edition for the Sega Saturn, or as I like to call it, One Ball, One Cup. Now, World Cup Golf Professional Edition, I'm glad that they have stipulated Professional Edition on the front of the cover, so that way I know going into this game that I'm going to get the most professional game. None of these other golf games that I reviewed, I've got 5 here that I'm doing back to back, have got Professional Edition on the front. So how do I even know that they're good games? I don't. Okay, this one says Professional Edition, so therefore it's got to be at the very least professional. Maybe it's, good as well, but probably not. I don't know why I find this funny. It's dumb. It just says Professional Edition, so therefore I don't know how that makes it somehow better. But anyway, there you go. Professional Edition, World Cup Golf. Is it any good? No, but here's the rest of the details. World Cup Golf was released on the PlayStation, CDI, 3DO and Saturn in 1996 by Softvision in Japan and US Gold in the rest of the world. It was developed by Arc Developments. I'm currently in the groove of reviewing golf games on the Saturn, and before we go on, this was the second worst. The game of golf was first played in 15th century Scotland. While it looks like it's whacking a small white ball in a hole, the devil's in the details. I wish I could say the same thing about this game. I use other games I've reviewed as a frame of reference, as I don't have the experience it would otherwise take to review, well, sports games in general, let alone golf. I don't watch golf, but I've only feigned an interest in these golf games to keep the narrative unbiased on my complete lack of a shit I give for the game of golf. It's like having a friend who's really just a friend of a friend. Look, I like you Sega Saturn, but if you bring golf into the mix, you're really the only reason Golf and I are hanging out at all. The presentation is not bad. Not bad in the absolute literal sense. It's not good, it's not even okay, it's just not bad. It gives me this lush green vibe by doing an overhead tour of a course at the beginning, which would be far better if it wasn't travelling at 18 to 20 frames a second. Then the menu presentation is a shot of a golf course with some blasé font choice. Then course choice is a little more exciting with a smear of red or orange off to the right as a sorry excuse for a presentation decision. Then in-game presentation is barely average, makes me have a whole new appreciation for Valora Valley Golf. I felt that game was all in the presentation, but this doesn't seem to even have that. The layout is pretty minimal and lacks creativity, excitement, detail, or anything substantial. And look, I can appreciate a played down approach to the presentation if there are other parts of the game that made up for it, or works well within the gameplay, but we'll cover that off there. The description of the game is
tee off the breathtaking realism.
But the irony is the graphics are kinda crappy. It might have been the case if the game had came out a year or two beforehand, because that was during a time when graphical fidelity was making huge headways in short periods of time. But by 1996, this is the worst looking game of all the golf games I've played, including actual golf, which, while being the best game in terms of gameplay, had pretty average graphics. I can be somewhat forgiving when it comes to graphics in just about any game, but when you're playing a game where green is 90% of the colour palette, I expect to see a little detail. The animation of the swing from the golfer is dated, but ultimately it's fine. The movement of the ball from the club towards the hole is pretty dicey. There are aerial flybys of each tee shot which look meh. During the sales pitch of the game, we're told there is CD quality music, digitized speech of the player, caddy, and commentator, which, okay, is true, but the game contains some of the most experience-breaking sound effects I've ever heard in a game. The audience claps sound like they're done in a recording studio and couldn't sound more out of place. I literally let out a snort of laughter. You could almost replace those claps with almost any other sound and it would be equally as comical. Not having music in a golf game I'm starting to accept as the norm. You need to concentrate on your shot and the last thing you want to have is some music funking your jam. Gameplay is pretty poor, and it's not the core mechanics I disagree with necessarily, because the game advertises that you'll have full control in your stance, swing, power and backspin, which, again, is technically true. It's just that when you add all the elements together, the overall experience is mostly frustrating. Instead of integrating all the tools you need to get the most control and accuracy in one screen before you take the shot, they're broken off into this menu that controls each element. The other 4 golf games I've played don't do this, and if you're fine with this, then, all the power to you, but after playing the other golf games, this seems like the worst design decision. So you can take a shot without actually checking anything or tweaking any element. However, if you wanted to actually see the settings, you need to go into the menu every time. Just assume the game knows every aspect of the shot and just hit the ball. What it really feels like is the game came with maybe 1 or 2 of these options to begin with, and then they added in far more control later when they realised that they were needed. Slap on Professional Edition to show the difference, and here we are. The fact that they had to put Professional Edition in the title says to me that they had to prove it as equal or better than the other games. It's like Trump saying that his words are the best words because he knows all the best words. I fucking love that bit. To compare with better golf games, they would ask the important questions before you took each shot, like club, which way you're going to face, position of your feet, what angle are you going to hit. On top of this, they would offer the ability for not only just a flyover shot of the course, but multiple angles that are useful, which is an important qualifier to see where we've actually placed the shot. Also, I can have a grid on the green, but it's not enabled by default. We get this crosshair to show us where to aim, which would seem helpful, except it doesn't really mean anything. If I aim right into the air, or 270 yards and 2 feet off the ground, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. The only real indicator we get is this red X to advertise that the shot is probably going to go somewhere where it shouldn't. What it does is make your shots a whole lot of guessing rather than skill-infused calculated shots. There is practice, tournament, skins, Texas Scramble and match play. There is plenty of modes to play through if you can be bothered playing through them all. Would I recommend this game? No. The more I think about this, the more it either tied with PGA Tour 97 as the worst golf game, or it's the second worst golf game on the Sega Saturn.